Shalom, everyone. In this video, I'm going to reveal what essentially really is the greatest secret and mystery behind the entire Sefer HaZohar. And I say this is a fact because I really don't know of anyone that knows what I'm going to reveal here in this video, because it requires very high initiation into the holy mysteries. Now, before I reveal this core secret and mystery behind Sefer HaZohar, I need to introduce a few points here. The first is a minor disquisition on the True Illuminati. Now, one of the things that really upsets me and really annoys me a lot is that we have so many people in this generation, much of the Goyim and what many would call conspiracy theories, that always like to equate many of the Luciferians and Satanists that run this world with the Illuminati. Now, there's no question that the highest, most initiated Luciferians and Satanists would love to consider themselves to be part of the Illuminati. That is, that they are completely illuminated, but they are not. They are very darkened individuals. And this is really, really upsetting, because if you're a holy initiate and a holy adept, then you most definitely know about the essence of the real, true, holy Illuminati. You see, Lucifer's method of operation is nothing but a perverse reflection of the holy domain. In other words, Lucifer has his own secret society of people that run the world, but I think what most people don't understand is that this is nothing more than a perverse reflection of Adonai's own secret society, which has existed since the beginning of time, which is a secret society that is full of the most elite and holiest of saints. Okay, members of this secret society would include Moshe, Eliyahu, and some of our ancient grandmaster Kabbalists and saints. Okay, and for the most part, most of the members of this secret society are mostly Jewish. Okay, and most of them will usually secretly reside in secret caves, in deserts, and mountaintops. Right. The Essenes are a perfect archetype of this secret society. Okay, an image of the secret society that Moshe initiated out in the wilderness. Okay, and also, even lesser known is that some of them actually secretly reside in the lower earths and others in the higher earths, as you will read about in our principal text, Sefer HaZohar. And these holy saints are in constant communication with the highest archons and the Sfaroth, etc. And they're very, very holy. And their main mission is to constantly guide humanity, restore the upper universes, unify the upper emanations, divine emanations, all for the purposes of specifically guiding Beit Yisrael, which is really just Christians and Jews, towards blessings, etc., and good tidings, etc. This is what it's all about. And they are also their activities, their operations are also to counteract the evil operations of that most venerable dragon and his secret society. Okay, so again, this is what I think a lot of people just don't really fully understand this, because I would probably say that the true Illuminati, this true holy Illuminati and this secret society is probably more esoteric, it has been more esoteric than, say, the Luciferian secret society that, essentially runs, the more larger part of the world as we know it, or most people would know it. Okay, so this is really important to understand, because this secret society has existed since the beginning of time, and it's always guiding Beit Yisrael, which are specifically Christians and Jews, at least for the past 2,000 years, as we know it. Now, in the 1200s was a very critical period in history. Now, we need to understand that after the destruction of the Second Temple, the vast majority of Israelites were exiled, or Jews, really Jews, were exiled into mostly Western Europe, mostly specifically Italy, Greece, and Spain. And over time, within a few hundred years, of all of these countries, it was really Spain and Italy, but mostly Spain, that had the largest population of Jews. So I always like to say, being a Sephardic Jew whose ancestry traces back to medieval Spain, I always like to say that we Jews pretty much ran and controlled Spain for over 1,500 years. This is really is the truth. And what we find is that the largest, if we were to analyze, the roots of all of the members of the Illuminati during this generation of the true Holy Illuminati, we would say that a large proportion was from Spain. And I truly believe, I really do truly believe that Moshe de Leon and Abraham Abulafia were a part of this Holy Illuminati, especially based on everything that I have, of all the books that I've read about Abraham Abulafia, and the powerful connection that I feel that I have to Abraham Abulafia, considering that I'm actually related to Abraham Abulafia, which is really interesting, because this would mean then that he too was of the house of King David. So I truly believe that these two members were part of the Illuminati, and everything seems to point and indicate that they were. And this is what we would call more of the esoteric. We would say that these members form more part of the esoteric part of the whole Illuminati, because the vast majority of the whole Illuminati usually live in secret, out in caves, mountains, and deserts, etc. And only very few members of the actual Illuminati will be dwelling among, mankind in cities and towns, etc. It's very rare for somebody who belongs to the whole Illuminati to be dwelling among mankind in cities, towns, etc. If you get my gist here. So, but sometimes it's needed, as in this critical generation. And the whole point and mission of the whole Illuminati during this period was to, for the first time, reveal the holy mysteries to the greater part of Israel, beginning with the Jews. Okay, since the Christians never received the holy mysteries. Okay, and essentially it was the Illuminati branch in Spain, which in high numbers existed there due to how great the population of Jews was in Spain with respect to the rest of the world for the past 2,000 years, that with the help of divinity, they essentially were responsible for releasing the holy mysteries, and they primarily did so through the redaction of our principal holy text, as is now known as Sefer HaZohar. Okay, now again, what I'm revealing to here is very, very esoteric. And again, as I get deeper here, this is stuff that is not really properly understood by many of the Jewish scholars and the common rabbanim, etc., because they're all uninitiated. Okay, and these Grandmaster Kabbalists like Moshe de Leon and Abraham Abulafia were fully initiated. And to be fully initiated means that you definitely have to know Yeshua Bar Yosef as being Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, if you are a Jewish Kabbalist and you don't know that Yeshua Bar Yosef is Mashiach ben Yosef, then you're not fully initiated. Okay, these Kabbalists were, and if you don't know this, then I have videos where I prove that some of these Grandmaster Kabbalists believed and knew who Yeshua Bar Yosef was, as being Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, so very critical criteria of being a fully initiated Kabbalist. And I don't have the time and space to really get into why, but it should, for a large part, be really common sense. Okay, now moving on, let's speak a little generally here, and very briefly on Yeshua HaMashiach, or Yeshua Bar Yosef of Nazareth. Now, we should know, here's some very few relevant points that need to be understood regarding this highly initiated Kabbalist. Well, he was a highly initiated Kabbalist living in Israel around 2,000 years ago. Okay, we'll say approximately 2,000 years ago. And this is critical to understand. And he had 12 disciples. And he traveled Israel, healing and teaching the holy mysteries with his disciples. And throughout his ministry and life, there occurred many supernatural encounters with his disciples, right? So the story of Yeshua is of this Grandmaster Kabbalist who has 12 disciples, who travels Israel teaching and revealing the holy mysteries, along with his disciples, healing people and performing a lot of supernatural miracles and having a lot of supernatural encounters. This is the gist of the story of Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, most Christians would know this. Okay, I'm afraid most Jews probably don't know this, but most Christians, this is common knowledge. Now let us proceed to Shimon Bar Yohai. Now, This is a very strange figure because we read about Shimon Bar Yohai very extensively in our ancient Midrashim, in the ancient Talmudim, etc. But very, very strangely, he takes on a divine status, a very powerful divine status in Sefer HaZohar. If you were fluent in our ancient Jewish text, which by the way you should be if you're an initiate or a holy adept, vis-a-vis the Talmudim and the Midrashim, etc., from reading about Shimon Bar Yochai in these texts, not knowing anything about Sefer HaZohar and the Kabbalistic texts, you would have no conception, no image of Shimon Bar Yochai being this divine, powerful divine figure. Does not compute. I repeat, it does not compute. It makes no sense. From the perspective of our ancient Talmudim and Midrashim, Shimon Bar Yochai is just a highly initiated, just another highly initiated Kabbalist, like many of the ancient Rabbanim. So in that respect, in that regard, he doesn't really stand out too much from all of the other Rabbanim. But everything changes when you begin to read and become initiated into Sefer HaZohar. Now, you read that Shimon Bar Yochai is a highly initiated Kabbalist, if not the most initiated Kabbalist living in Israel. Guess when? About 2,000 years ago. And that he had 10 disciples, and that he traveled Israel healing people and teaching holy mysteries with his disciples, and had many supernatural encounters. You see where this is going? Do you see the connection now? I'm hoping that you're beginning to see where this is going to go, where this is going. Now, let us go back to Yeshua in the New Testament. We know for a fact, as a Christian, or as somebody who knows Yeshua HaMashiach, you should know for a fact that we only have but just 10%, if not less. In fact, I would go as far as to say we have less than 10% of all of the actual teachings and life of Yeshua HaMashiach. And this is very lamentable. In fact, the New Testament states this rather explicitly. Now, we should be intelligent enough, wise enough to know that Yeshua HaMashiach had many esoteric books composed and written at his command that were only meant for the holy initiates and the holy adepts. When we read of the most initiated adepts and initiates of Yeshua HaMashiach, in the generation after Yeshua HaMashiach, they speak extensively about this. And no, these are not the Gnostic books. I've read many of the Gnostic books of the Nag Hammadi Library, etc., and I can assure you that these books are not those esoteric books. Now, I have a video where I briefly touched upon Christian Gnosticism, but all you need to know is that no, these are not the books. Any true Jewish Kabbalist like myself knows what the books read like and what their nature and essence is. Those books' essences and nature does not match our Jewish Kabbalistic books and treatises. This is how you should easily know. Nevertheless, the point here is that very, very esoteric Jewish Kabbalistic treatises and books were composed by Yeshua's first initiates, disciples, and adepts. This is a fact. The question is, where did they go? What happened to them? Well, if you have a very close relationship with Mashiach, he will reveal to you many holy mysteries, and you will know then that these esoteric holy books were safely guarded and preserved throughout the generations by, guess who? Yes, the true Holy Illuminati. Now, for the first 1,200 years after Mashiach's passing, they were very, very extraordinarily esoteric. Okay? And they were highly preserved and highly guarded and very, very esoteric, that practically there was really no Christians and hardly any Jews that knew of their existence and studied them, etc. Okay, it was a very, very powerful secret society. But that all changed in the 1200s when it was decreed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to for the first time, begin releasing these holy mysteries, beginning with the Jews. That's exactly what happened. Okay? Again, the whole Illuminati knows exactly who Mashiach is, and of all of his incarnations here upon earth. One of them being Yeshua Bar Yosef of Natsari. He's just one of many incarnations of Mashiach ben Yosef. He's incarnated many times in this aeon. Okay? And knowing all of this, and that the time had come to reveal these holy mysteries, they couldn't just be revealed in their raw form. We have a problem. We have Judaism and the Jews, the vast majority of them, they're not Christians. They don't believe in Yeshua of Natsari as being Mashiach. And many of them have tried to corrupt, pervert, and change some of their beliefs so that they don't match with Christianity, even though in ancient times they would. There are teachings that would have matched. Okay? And so we have a problem that in its raw form, many of these holy teachings going directly back to Yeshua HaNatsari, and this being very well known among the true holy Illuminati, you can't just release these holy mysteries in the raw form. They would be rejected. They would be rejected by all of Judaism and the Jews. So, what needed to be done was to modify them accordingly. Okay? And that's what they did. Now, instead of the most initiated Kabbalist of Israel living about 2,000 years ago, now instead of his name being Yeshua Bar Yosef, his name changes to Shimon Bar Yohai. Now instead of having 12 disciples, it's changed to 10 disciples. Now, the numbers 10 and 12 are the most elite Kabbalistic holy numbers. And they're very esoteric numbers that are not fully understood by most Jews and Christians. Okay? In its most foundational essence, the number 10 refers to the 10 Sefirot of the Godhead. And the number 12 refers to a very esoteric aspect of the Sefirot, which I don't have the time and space to get into here. So, this is how this was changed. Now, there are many clues. If you have read the entire Sefer HaZohar, and I have, and mastered it, and I have, you would notice certain very subtle clues that are put and scattered throughout Sefer HaZohar that all intimate what I have just said. Now, one of these clues is that the names, as they have changed, right? Instead of Shimon Kefa being the chief disciple of Yeshua, his name is changed to Rab Elazar, the son of Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, when you begin to analyze the names of these figures as they are found in Sefer HaZohar, you will find that their essences and their attributes don't match what you read about in the ancient Talmudim and Midrashim. And this is one of the first major clues that they put in. If you're initiated enough, you know that the reason that this clue is indicating and pointing out that these names are not real. These are not the real names of the figures that you are reading about here in Sefer HaZohar. And you have to be a pretty damn fully initiated Kabbalist to know this and get at this. Okay, this is very powerful stuff. If this was released, now in this generation to most Jews, it would be very bad. There'd be blood on the streets. And most Jews wouldn't even be able to believe it in any ways. It would just go way over their heads. They're not initiated enough to know this. But the mission was a grand success because hundreds of years later, the Holy Mysteries grabbed the Jews by storm. So, in summary, we see that the whole Illuminati is responsible for ensuring that the Holy Mysteries are not lost throughout time. And their job is to preserve the Holy Mysteries. And they essentially, in the 1200s, redacted and changed many of these Kabbalistic treatises going back to Yeshua by changing all of the names and figures and events, etc., slightly so that they don't match going back to Yeshua HaNatsari. Okay, and as I said, there are many clues that are scattered throughout Sefer HaZohar, and I've already given one very powerful major clue, that if you read Sefer HaZohar, you would know that, the redactors are telling you that these are not the real names of the figures that you are reading about, which begs the question, who are you reading about? Who really are these figures? Well, if you're fully initiated, you know who they are. When you read Sefer HaZohar, if you are fully initiated, you should know, and this is most powerful what I'm about to reveal here, you should know that you are reading about the secret teachings of Yeshua Bar Yosef of Hanatzari, who is Mashiach ben Yosef. You are reading about many of the divine spiritual encounters he and his disciples had when they were here on earth. Sefer HaZohar, our principal text, is essentially the secret teachings of Yeshua HaMashiach. This is very powerful. And I don't know of any Kabbalists that know this other than those that belong to the Holy Illuminati, many of which have passed away 400 years ago. This is the greatest secret and mystery behind Sefer HaZohar. Now, there are many scholars and Jews that have gotten partial wind of this, because there have been many scholars and Rabbanim who, being very rationalist in mind, which is inferior to a spiritual mystical mind, have read the books, have read about Christianity, the New Testament, and they see these very powerful, profound connections between the teachings of Christianity, ancient mystical Christianity, and those that are found in Sefer HaZohar and our Kabbalistic treatises. One example being Trinity. I've already done a video on the Trinity and showing those connections. Okay? And they see this, and they become very alarmed. They become very scared. Now, this is very critical to understand, especially when we study our past history. There were many Jews, there were many scholars, many of them were uninitiated, part of the common Rabbanim, that when the Sefer HaZohar was first released, they were intelligent and rational enough to understand what I have just said. And therefore, they rejected these holy esoteric books. And there was a number of holy wars that were initiated in the few centuries after the Sefer HaZohar was redacted and published. There were very powerful, esteemed Rabbanim that launched holy wars against the Kabbalah and its holy books and treatises. Some went as far as to pronounce major burnings and curses upon that book. And this has not ceased. Even to this day, there are many Jews that reject the Holy Kabbalah, the Sefer HaZohar, and many Jews, many of them being rationalists, of the rationalist inferior mindset, that think this book was a secret creation of Christianity and of the Christians. There are many esteemed, many powerful Jews, many esteemed Jews, very, very, high-level Jews that truly believe this. And there were many holy wars that were launched in the Middle Ages because of this, by these inferior, uninitiated Jews. This was all the work of Lucifer and Hasatan, and he failed. Because now we know, from just looking at the history and now, that the vast majority of Jews now accept this as the whole part of being part of the Holy Kabbalah. But Lucifer has tried very, very hard to stop this from happening. And now you fast forward to the past, 100 years, and now he's waging war on the Christians. Now you have many stupid, retarded Christians that think that Sefer HaZohar is a book of black magic, that the Kabbalah is a reference to black magic and Luciferianism. Oh, the stupidity. But this is the brilliance of Lucifer. This is the power of Lucifer. He's very powerful. And he's won a lot of battles. But he's not going to win, I assure you. We are winning. So, fully meditate and fully take in this most powerful holy revelation, which could only be revealed by the chief magician of Mystery Babylon. Shalom, Ramein.